When someone comes to me and they want to become a coaching client of mine, I ask them what is unhappy? What do you want to change about your life? What don't you want in your life anymore? And you need to get clear on what you want to get rid of before you get clear on what you really want, because the two can conflict. You need to get clear on what you no longer want. You don't want credit card debt. You don't want drama. You don't want poor health. You don't want to be in the job you're in. You don't want to live where you're living. And then we find out what you do want. I want to live in Nicaragua. I don't want to get married, but I want to own a house, and whatever it is. And that gives me a more total picture of the personality and what their goals are.
Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges, as he explores turning the page on his life and yours.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next chapter with Charlie. My special guest today is entrepreneur and coach Kevin Roth. Kevin has a very fascinating way of viewing life. He has it will be a very exciting show. I'm looking forward to it very much. There's a quote that I thought was his, and so I was really amazed, and then I found out it was a Ken Dyer quote, but it still is very applicable, and it's change the way you look at things, and things will change. Talk to me about that. What does it mean to look at things?
Wayne's quote was change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And it's about perspective, whether you look at something half full or half empty. And all the light that you shed on something, which will be your reality towards it.
Yeah. What do you mean by all the light you shed on it?
Well, if you break it down, change the way you look at things. So you want to look at things, if you're looking at them in a negative viewpoint, you could look at them in a positive viewpoint. And when you do that, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if you're going to a dinner party that you really don't want to go to, and you keep the attitude, I don't want to go, I don't want to meet these people, they're going to drive me crazy, and you turn that around and say, well, let me just be open to what experience happens tonight. And then lo and behold, you meet somebody brand new that you really like.
Yeah.
The situation changes.
Yeah, I agree. I so agree. Yeah, I do. I noticed in our backgrounds that we have a similarity, although mine is not as quite as dramatic as yours, but you had stage 3 melanoma.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got prostate cancer right now, going through radiation, which is I'm very fortunate, and they caught it very early. So, and I'm 76 years old, and so half the time they don't even do radiation, but they said I'm too healthy, and they wanted to continue it. Continue more. But tell me about, how did that impact your life, that melanoma?
Well, the doctors told me that the kind that I had, there was no cure for, so I'd probably be dead. They said that it would return, a 70% chance it would return within 2 years, and I'd be dead within 3. So that's really giving you a death sentence.
It is.
What made me look at why I thought I got cancer, and the conclusion I came to, was stress and inflammation, which is pretty much everybody's call these days in the world we live in. Many people are stressed, and many people are inflamed from eating processed food and other things that aren't good for you. So I had to look at my life, and I follow my gut. My gut said that they were wrong. And of course, that was 11 years ago, so they were wrong. But I had to change the way I looked at things. And I decided that I asked myself 3 questions, which was the basis of my book, Between the Notes. The questions were, what really matters? Why does it matter? And what are you going to do about it? And so the answers for me was, what's important are my dog, my music, my art. And I wanted to move out of the Midwest and move to California, back to California, and live the life of pretty much a bohemian. And then I became a life coach in the process of all that.
Did you? So you live in San Diego. Where do you live in San Diego?
I live near Ocean Beach.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's familiar, kind of familiar territory. My son played for the Padres for a while, so we were
Oh.
down there quite a bit. And we're just up in Orange County, so we're not far away
Mm-hmm.
at all. So I love San Diego. I think San Diego is a very fun place.
Mm-hmm. It's a great place to live.
Why is that? What makes San Diego such a good place to live?
The weather, the people, the laid back vibe, the beauty. I'm 10 minutes from the ocean and an hour and 20 to the mountains. So it's quite favorable for me.
That is good. Now, do you spend your time writing? Are you a writer?
Yeah, I write. I have my own column on Substack called Kevin Roth Dulcimer, and I write for that.
Okay, yeah.
And occasionally I'll write a new album. So I'm definitely a writer.
So tell me about a dulcimer. I don't know much about a dulcimer.
So a dulcimer is an American folk instrument, and I saw one when I was about 14 and learned to play it by myself. And then I got a record deal when I was 16 on Folkway Records. So I've been playing dulcimer my entire life, and I created something about 7, 8 years ago called Dulce Meditation, where when you become a coaching client of mine, I use that Dulce Meditation in our work.
Oh, really? How so?
If you play the dulcimer, I teach you how to play Dulce Meditation. And if not, sometimes I'll create an instrumental for you to meditate to.
Yeah. And is that the more popular way?
Oh, they're both popular because they both work.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting that it is music that forms that creates a space for meditation because I meditate daily,
Mhm.
but I don't use any music.
Yeah, well, the way I teach this form of dulcimer playing is it's very, very easy, very laid back and subtle. So it really kind of takes your mind, it makes your mind focus on the music while you listen to your subconscious and what it's trying to tell you.
What kinds of things do you get from your subconscious?
It could be anything. It could be an appointment I forgot about and it just comes up. You have that today. Sometimes it's you need to not do anything and just relax today. Sometimes it comes up where it's a good time to start a new project. I always sort of ask myself, what do I need to know? And I can always rely on that.
Oh, so that happens in meditation?
It happens when I play Dulce meditation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because a lot of times in meditation, it's not thinking about anything. It's sort of removing any thought patterns from your brain.
Hmm. Yeah. This is a little more active, but it works.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. So you know what I noticed also in and it's something that I think I want to spend a bit of time on. Um, and that you call them the three basic rules of life, maybe. You don't say of life, but three basic rules. And you say, understanding your number one asset,
Mhm.
getting clear on what you don't want, and then make a plan and understand the integration of spirituality and science.
Mhm.
Um, I'm really interested in number two, but let's go to number one. How do we go about determining our number one asset?
It's easy. It's your health. It's not money or possessions. If you have your health, you have a little your first couple million, because without your health, life can become pretty miserable.
So, health, you mean eating, walking?
Emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. You have to keep your health up. You need to eat good foods. You need to get enough sleep. You need to be grounded. You need to do things that take care of your health. You need to exercise, walk. Walking is great. Yeah.
Yeah, my son is big on walking, wants me to walk. Said, and he doesn't use so much walk as he uses movement. He
Mm.
says, Dad, you just need to have movement.
Yeah.
I'm 76, so it's it's time to have movement in my life.
Yeah. It feels good when you walk after a while.
Yeah, yeah. My wife and I both walk. She walks more than I, but I walk probably 20 minutes a day, maybe 3 days a week.
Mm. Hmm. And the second one, which one did you say the second one was?
Yeah, I like this. Get clear on what you don't want.
Yeah.
Usually I hear getting clear on what you want, not on what you don't want.
Well, when someone comes to me and they want to become a coaching client of mine, I ask them what is unhappy? What do you want to change about your life? What don't you want in your life anymore? And you need to get clear on what you want to get rid of before you get clear on what you really want, because the two can conflict, you know? Uh, so you need to get clear on what you no longer want. You don't want credit card debt. You don't want drama. You don't want poor health. You don't want to be in the job you're in. You don't want to live where you're living, whatever it is that you don't want. And then we find out what you do want. I want to live in Nicaragua. I don't want to get married, but I want to own a house, and whatever it is. And that gives me a more total picture of the personality and what their goals are. Because a lot of times we process what we do want because we don't have it. We've got what we've got, but a lot of people are addicted to pain and drama and staying stuck in situations and with people that don't serve you. And that's destructive.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, Kevin. Um, I think it does lead to what you want by casting out the demons of what you don't want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And simple is always better. The more simple your life is, the better off you'll feel and you'll be. We're a culture, especially here in this country, where it's consume, consume, consume. We don't know how to shut our cell phones off and just take a walk in nature and listen without scrolling.
I guess I am fortunate. I am not I am not a scroller. I am not I'm not a social media person. So I don't follow those things very much.
Yeah.
I
Well, most
don't I
people
don't
do.
appreciate them.
Yeah, most people do. So silence is golden, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, yeah, I guess it is. I guess it is. It's just that, for me, social media, I really could care less about other people's opinion.
Hmm.
It just doesn't mean anything to me. I'm even getting I'm even reading fewer and fewer news feeds.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why less is more. And I forgot what the third thing is you mentioned.
The third thing is understand the integration of spirituality and science.
Yeah, so a lot of the old spiritual masters, whether it was Jesus or Ramana Maharshi or Buddha, they all basically says that the world is sort of an illusion, and quantum physics backs that up with saying things like nothing really exists when it comes, to looking at atoms and matter and things like that. So the reason I integrate that in my coaching is because I feel that people need a spiritual basis, and if they can't wrap their head around the fact that uh, a lot of this spiritual talk, or what some call woo-woo talk, they can't wrap their head around that. They can look at what quantum physics says. They have a whole thing called IAMS, I believe it is. It's a place where the scientists and spiritual people come together once or twice a year. I forget the name of the website, but they have conventions. They've got people like Deepak Chopra and the guy who came up with biocentrism. I forget his name, but he's a world-renowned physician. And they all get together and they talk about consciousness. What is consciousness? How does it work? What is reality? And all that kind of stuff. So the reason that's important is because we get caught up in other details of our life, like we've got to go get our driver's license exam again, or we have a bill coming due or something, and we get crazy thinking about those things when they really don't matter that much. These are things that come along in life you have to do.
There's shit to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I um I get bills and and rather than procrastinate, for instance, I got a bill for my wife's driver's license, for her car, not her driver's permit, but the thing for her car
Yeah.
wasn't due till July 2nd. I completed it yesterday.
Yeah.
It just was done. I just get things done right away. I don't.
Yeah, you get them out of the way. But if we focus on the things that make us crazy, it's not a happy life.
What kinds of things make us crazy, Kevin?
Everyone's different, but watching the news is one of them. Having a lot of debt and pressure on you financially is another. Doing things that make you in poor health is another. Um, you know, Essentially what we want to do is we want to be peaceful. So we have to understand the things that make us crazy. You have to say to yourself, it's getting a little warm in here, San Diego weather, cold and then warm. We have to say, I'm around this person and they're very toxic and they make me unhappy, so I don't want to be around them anymore, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I am very particular about my friends,
Hmm.
about who's close to me.
Yeah, people influence each other.
Yeah, I deal with three types of relationships:
Hmm.
replenishing, neutral, that are just, your everyday relationships. Replenishing are the ones that build you up, and you get along, and you you develop in them. But
Hmm.
then there are the what is called the VDPs, very draining people. And the first time I did this exercise was in the late 1980s.
Hmm.
And I was, at that time, I was a pastor at a church, no longer a pastor. I was a pastor at a church, and I was in charge of single adult ministry. And talk about very draining people. That was that was very draining.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I hadn't I had no replenishing relationships. So I developed one. I found a guy, and and we we seemed to hit it off. We seemed to be in the same train of thought.
Hmm.
And basically, Kevin, I asked him to go steady with me.
Oh, okay.
I said, "Do you want to develop this kind of relationship?" And here we are 38 years later,
Yeah, still friends.
still friends, still talk on the phone 2 to 3 times a week, send emails.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you want to have in life.
I think they're critical.
Yeah.
I think those those are the kinds of things you want. You don't see this one. I knew I didn't want VDPs,
Hmm.
very draining people.
Right.
Neutral people were fine,
Hmm.
but very draining people was a drag.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you counsel people when it comes to
How do I counsel or cancel?
that? Both.
Well, I pick up on people's vibes pretty quick and I just don't get involved with them. So there's no
Yeah,
need to cancel. I don't let them in.
yeah, yeah.
So, counseling, I don't have to counsel people who are draining because I don't associate with them. So there's no, I mean, sometimes, clients come to me, but I don't find them draining because, we work together. I don't take all clients. Some clients I can tell right away are going to be difficult, and so I don't take them. I do everything I can to make my life flow fairly easy and ride the waves as much as I can.
Yeah, when I was in the coaching business, I don't think I ever had any draining people.
Hmm.
I just, they didn't fit.
Yeah, but you have to be selective. The people who come to me find me on podcasts or they read my book or they see a YouTube video on my channel or sometimes they read my Substack. So they already are familiar with my vibe and they like it. They resonate with it. So we talk about that. That's how we become a client, a client relationship kind of thing.
I've never read your Substack or any of that, so I'm not, I'm not familiar with your vibe. How would you describe your vibe?
Well, on Substack, I write short stories and some introspective material, but if I mean you're getting my vibe, of course you got my vibe during our pre-call, and my website gives you my vibe, my book, my music. Um, I'm not obviously a high-strung, hysterical kind of guy. I'm very laid back, I'm very direct. I'm pretty much a true bohemian. I've had fame and fortune, and it was fun, but it didn't mean much. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty much I think more of a loner. I like being alone a lot with my dog, but at the same time, I can be very social. So it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, I find myself the same way. I am a loner. I will spend, today I will spend alone all day. But I have I'm an introvert with a very social aspect to my extroversion. That I am social. I prefer to be introverted, but I also prefer being social, working with people, getting vibes from people, understanding people.
Yeah. So that's you find out what works for you in life and what doesn't work for you, and you stick with what works. It's pretty simple. But the less people and the less things you have to deal with, the easier all that becomes. So I have a life that's financially very reasonable. I don't live in a big expensive apartment. I don't drive a fancy car. I don't have. I don't like to travel a whole lot. I can afford to live better, but the way I'm living now is more than fine. I'm happy the way I am. So I don't create debt. I don't. I tend to, when problems come up, look at them direct head on and analyze them and deal with them rather than buy things to fill the hole in the soul up. I'm also a big proponent of therapy. There's sometimes I get people who want to work with me and they really need a therapist because they've been physically abused, and that's not my expertise. Um, and then, all kinds of shapes and sizes. So I'm very selective with my clients too. So
Yes, it sounds like it.
I'll give you a good example. I'm twitching around a lot in my seat because I sprained or strained my hip flexor, and it's very uncomfortable. So I went to a physical therapist yesterday, and I didn't like them. I didn't like them because they're corporate and they have a corporate phone number. So you have to wait on the phone a long time to get through. And then it's a message center. And the vibe of the woman who was the therapist was very corporate. I mean, she did okay, but I didn't feel good about it when I left. I thought, you know what? A long time ago, I went to another physical therapist, and she was very sweet, and they answer the phone, and it's them. And so I canceled the other appointments I had, and I had my doctor contact my old physical therapist. So that's the kind of choices you make. If you're not feeling it, don't stay there. You know. Um, and when they asked me, was there a problem? I said the problem is that you have a corporate and you have AI answering your phone for you, and I'm a human being, and I don't like to talk to AI. And she said, I understand, sir. but we're corporate. I said, well, you be what you be. And I want to work with a human being. I want to call a physical therapist up and talk to someone I know who answers the phone after 4 or 5 rings and says, may I help you or can I put you on hold? Not to have to listen to this music for 10 minutes to be connected to a system. So that makes me aggravated. I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the time for it. I don't think it's necessary. I want to get in and get out. So you leave that therapist and you find someone who has what you want. And so that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's how I take care of myself.
Well, this is a perfect example of what you were talking about. You find out what you don't want,
Yeah.
and then you find out what you want.
Yeah. And it's also important to do it with yourself. I just finished a big project and I was hoping to get a different result. Um, it's a long story, but basically I had hoped to hit a 10 and I fell into the 8, 9 area. So I could say to myself, when you think of change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, I could say, you effed up. You screwed up. You could have done the 10 if you had blah, 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 blah. But I didn't. I did it a certain other way and I got close. So I didn't get there. So the way I look at it is this is an ongoing thing and you can resolve this. You can get to the 10 and beyond it, but you have to make slight changes. But you got to an 8 or 9, which is really phenomenal. It's great.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
8 or 9 is
Yeah.
great.
So I didn't hit the goal, but I came relatively close to it. So that's how I choose to look at it rather than say to myself, oh, you're a failure. You were never good at this. So it's all bullshit. It's the mind telling me, what's not real. Because the end result is I want to accomplish this goal and I will. And it's going to take a little more time and a little more adjustment. And that's the end of the story. So I keep myself happy that way.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like your message a lot. I've tried to think about, as we've talked about here, I've tried to think about, do I pursue the things I want, or do I begin with what I don't want? And I must admit, I probably begin with what I don't want.
Well, when your life becomes smaller, you have less of those choices.
Talk to me.
Well, someone wanted me to give a concert for them. And they are in Ohio. Actually, they're not in Ohio, they're in Pennsylvania, which is clear across the country. And I said, well, this is my fee and so forth and so on. And they said, that's exorbitant. Why do you charge that much money? We don't pay that kind of money. I said, because I fly first class and I like a nice hotel. And she said, well, can you fly coach? I have frequent flyer miles and you can stay with us. And I said, no, I'm 68. And if I'm going to get on a plane, which I don't like anyway, I've been on them my entire life as a musician on tour, I'm flying first class. And I don't want to stay with you. I appreciate your interest, but I want my own space, my own hotel room. So call me a diva. But if you can't afford that kind of time or my price, because I'll be away 3, 4 days, it's a day going and a day coming, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not coming. And she said, well, you can get exposure and blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, it sounds like a great deal. All you need to do is come up with the money. And I'm happy to be there. And I'm not being a diva. It's just that this is what works for me. So she passed, and that was fine with me. That was fine with me. But I'm not going to go to an airport, especially these days at an airport, and ride 6.5, 7 hours on a plane, squished in with somebody in the middle seat, and then have to be picked up by someone and brought to their house with allergies of cats or whatever. That's a negative way of looking at it. Change the way you look at it. and the things you look at change. So I have a choice there. I could say, yeah, but you'll be playing for a lot of people, you'll be selling records. But I don't really care about that. What I care about is I have to leave my dog for 3 days. I have to arrange other things. I have to rehearse. It's a lot to schlep across the country and give a
Yeah.
concert.
Yeah.
So if I'm on tour, it's one thing. But I don't feel I was happy she invited me and she understood why I wanted what I wanted. And it's just we couldn't do a deal. So that was fine. So the way I looked at it differently was these are certain requirements. They're not over the top. I'm not charging $1 million, but I want to be comfortable. I want to be happy because you're hiring me to give a concert and I need to be well rested and I need to be focused. And a turbulent airplane ride possibly and staying in someone's guest room at a house with screaming kids ain't going to do it for me.
No.
In there. So
No.
those are the choices that you make.
I was fortunate in my coaching. Everything was a referral.
Mm.
I had no clients,
Mm-hmm.
that were, I had no marketing materials out there.
Mm-hmm.
It was just referral. One client would refer me to the next client.
That's good. Yeah.
And I didn't need a lot of clients.
Yeah.
I needed 5 or 6 clients because I was dealing with high net worth individuals
Yeah.
that could afford to support that.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful.
Yeah. So that's how I do life. I try and teach other people how to do it that way too.
That's great. You have a wonderful story. I think your story of, to me, the takeaway from your story is understand what you don't like, and then it will come clear what you do like.
Yeah. It's one of the steps.
Yeah, it's a great step. Kevin Roth, you've been incredible.
Well,
Thank you
thanks for
so
having me
much.
on. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Okay, likewise. So, thank you for being on the show. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the next chapter with Charlie. Until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.